Hi everyone, it's Chris. Today I have a video to share with you. I've been playing with my stencils again, and this time I have been using foil and Deco Foil Transfer Gel. I am also using my Misty. I'm using the back side of it as a magnetic base. I'm using my bar magnets to hold my stencil down in place. I've covered the back of the Misty with a piece of Ranger Craft sheet. And now I'm using a palette knife to just lightly spread this Deco Foil Transfer Gel into my stencil. I'm putting a very light coat down, and then I'm using a little rubber squeegee to make it nice and smooth and flat. Then I'm just going to set that panel aside and let it dry completely. As long as I've got my stuff out, I'm going to do a couple more panels. So this stencil is called Triple Stripe, but I don't want to use the full stencil. I'm just going to use one row of these stripes. So I've taken a piece of 3M Post-it tape and made a little mask to mask off the center row of stripes so I'm not rubbing that transfer gel into those holes. And so here I'm just spreading the gel again and using that little rubber squeegee to make it nice and smooth and thin. And because you want a really nice smooth surface as it dries for your foil to adhere to. So now it's been a couple of hours. My gel is nice and clear and shiny, and now it's time to foil it. So I'm using my mini Mink laminator. I've let it heat up for about 10 to 15 minutes. You want to get it nice and hot. And then I'm just cutting a piece of foil. This happens to be called silver shattered glass. And just a piece large enough to cover my gel medium. And then I'm going to wrap it in. You can either use a piece of parchment paper. I'm actually out of parchment paper, so I'm just using some very cheap piece of copy paper. And it works well enough to run through my laminator. So I've let it cool just a bit, and then I'm just going to peel off the top of the foil. And you'll see that all the stars are covered. The foil will only stick to the parts that have the gel medium on it. So you want to be really careful when you're applying the gel medium, because if you get gel medium under or on the sides of your stencil, it is going to show up. The foil is going to stick to it. So here is a piece that I had done earlier, and then here is the triple stripe, my one row. This red one is actually a stencil from A Colorful Life that is called Honeycomb Fade. And as you can see, I have just a little bit of that gel medium that kind of squeezed under one of the holes. So I'm using a Tombow Mono sand eraser, and just to get a couple of those little dots off. It's not going to take out huge areas of foil, but if you just have a little stray speck or something, the eraser does a pretty good job. Now on this panel, I'm going to do some inking. I'm using the Picket Fence Life Changing brushes and some Gina K Red Velvet ink. And I just wanted to kind of like accentuate that fade. It kind of makes this panel look very cylindrical or something. I just kind of following that where you see the larger honeycomb pattern, and leave that center spot where the dots are smaller, leave that very light. And just to make a really interesting pattern, the foil isn't going to rub off. It's really well adhered to your paper, so you can do all kinds of techniques over the foil. Now I'm going to go to this green card. As it was sitting on my desk cooling, I was looking at it and I thought, gosh, that looks like birthday candles. So that's what I decided to do with this card, is just make a really clean and simple card. I'm just kind of hand sketching in some flames. I'm using a couple of different yellow Copic markers. I'm going to add some brown, a little bit of red right at the base of the flame. And then I'm going to add a very simple greeting with a little banner. This is just a banner die from Spellbinders. And I want to add the happy birthday greeting. This is from Burgess Monroe's Super Sentiment set. So I'm using my Misty, and I'm going to use just a piece of the grid pad as a piece of scratch paper, and I'm going to stamp this onto that scratch paper. Originally I started with grass green ink, decided it just wasn't dark enough, so I decided to go with black. So I am lining up the negative from my die cut around my stamping, and then I just pop the actual die cut back in the hole, and I know it's going to stamp in the exact same spot, even if I stamp it a second time to get it nice and dark and crisp. So there is my finished card. A couple other cards that I have used. Here is the Falling Stars that I chose to make into a panel. This is Concord and Night City Stack set. And the red panel, I ended up making a Christmas card using 2 of Gina K Design sets. This is Perfect Poinsettia and Festive Foliage for the sentiment. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you'll have fun trying foil.